come to places like Morley and you see just the variety of tiles they've got. They're like a snapshot of a period in time. They've got a collection here of just about all the patterns that were laid in Derbyshire. We know that these were probably made at Dale Abbey, which we know had kilns there, so they were fired locally. This range of tiles we know was being made around the sort of 1340s, and what you've got here is basically the end of that. So these are the last tiles being made with these pattern blocks. The image is carved for the tiles into wood. Once you've got your image transferred in reverse, you then carve away everything that isn't the picture. So you carve away the brown background of the tile. And we know from surviving fragments, when you look at them in cross-section, the image is actually very, very shallow of the second colour. And then your finished wood block, you then hammer that into the back of a freshly made clay tile. You can't just press it in and lean on it, you have to use a hammer. It's quite a significant weight you have to apply to it. Once you're happy that that's a good print of your wooden pattern block, in order to see the pattern, you then need to add a different white clay that's still an earthenware clay. These are clays that are dug quite close to the surface of the soil. I buy it as a solid clay and I pound that up into powder and I mix it with water. You don't find this in very many places in medieval England. And so this is why you use so little. It's only just enough. Once you've poured it all in, and I use a cow's horn with a little piece of a goose feather in the end, a goose feather quill. It has to sit for, depending on the weather, 3 or 4 or 5 days. Once it's dried enough that the base clay is dry, I then take a blade and I very carefully shave away that surface until where the two colours meet, so that crisp edge around the design. And then that dries for anything up to another 10 days, depending on the weather. Then that's put into a kiln and fired very, very slowly. And the glaze that goes on the top is then what changes the colour from what would be a bright orange clay when it's first fired and bright white back to brown and this lovely yellow colour that's known as honey yellow. And what you've got a lot of at Morley here are ones that have actually been through a process called reduction, so the blackening of the tile. Mine are yellow because the glaze is fresh. The glaze has been worn off these. Originally they would have been yellow, but because so much of the glaze is worn away, so much of that outer surface has been worn away, what you're looking at then is a blackening of the base tile. I personally think that it was a skill that was lost and forgotten around the time of the Black Death. And it's how I date tiles, is if I see tiles like this with this wonderful blackening on them, those then, to me, that's being made before 1350, before the Black Death. And it's only when you then have either new buildings being made or they're becoming worn and then they're relaying them that you then get another wave of designs coming in the 15th century. And then they finish being made at the time of the Reformation. So when Henry VIII closes all the abbeys, this then stops as a craft. To see this amount of variety of different patterns in the quality that they are in a church setting and not just in isolation, one at a time in a museum, you can make connections between them. They have been relayed, but the beauty of the people who relayed them in the Victorian times is they did then carry on grouping them together, and that's when you come to the butterfly tile and why it's so significant.